quite a few of the Scottish came to Barbados as a part of those, getting Barbados and coming to do indentureship and so on. And we still have their descendants living with us. And we have, again, the food that reflects that,
Of course.
but also some words of the vernacular that we use.
Yeah. Hi, Kaye. Thanks for hanging out with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. When we first met, quite by accident, I realized that we had a shared passion for food, intangible heritage, especially food. But I realized too in talking to you that this seems to be something generational because you know your way around the kitchen, your daughter knows her way around the kitchen, your mother knows her way around the kitchen. So I'm sure that you've had childhood experiences that have influenced your love and your passion for food.
Oh, well, yes, definitely. My grandmother, to this day, nobody can make, and it's a simple dish, scrambled eggs to match her. I eventually, and I didn't get the recipe before she passed on. I was an adult when she passed on, but her scrambled eggs, I never made any attempt because it was always there. And it took me years to figure out what she was doing to get my scrambled eggs to taste like her scrambled eggs. I mean, years and years of experimenting. And I don't think I've still got quite the fluffiness, but I've at least got the flavor now. But from when I was a toddler, my mom was a home ec teacher for many years. So we were, anything going done in the home ec class got tested out at home first to make sure that she had everything just so for the students when they had to do it, for their session. So we got taste testing, and my dad worked in the hotel industry. So things that other people didn't try till they were adults were in my house when I was a child. So everybody cooks, everybody likes to eat. Everybody probably has a taste for the finer things in life. So food has always been a part of my life, yes.
Of course. So you were talking about the fact that, sometimes people are conservative and they like certain dishes a certain way. So when we first heard about cuckoo being microwavable, that was a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the whole discussion about pudding and sauce. Some people like it with the features. If there's no features, it's not pudding and sauce. Then there's the whole conky discussion. I'm team raisins, by the way.
Me too.
There's the whole conky discussion. But even from all those things, we realize that food has evolved.
Oh, yes. And it is through that evolution, through that being suitable and appropriate for every generation, that these food traditions remain alive. I mean, I think maybe I turned cuckoo once in my life, so I know how it's done. But who really has the time in 2023 to get a cuckoo stick and turn cuckoo? Admittedly, I am not a fan of the microwave brand, and I'm not a huge fan of okra, so I like my okra slush on the light side. But it is those variations and those love of those different things that you go from that these things evolve. So, for example, when I was a child, lean sauce did not exist. Now, I suppose people will call me bougie, but I really don't eat anything else. My daughter, on the other hand, she prefers pickled pigtail. And some people will tell you pickled pigtail is not sauce. And chicken feet is not sauce. And some people will tell you it is a chicken foot sauce. Some people will tell you it is pickled chicken feet. But it is the continuation of the pickling of the food, which is what is traditional. It is the people who are experimenting and finding ways to get people interested and enthusiastic about trying different preparations of the food that are keeping those food traditions alive.
Yes. So certainly we've seen how it has changed. The only type of cuckoo that I probably have tried once would be green banana cuckoo. I love it.
Oh, yes.
But I also love breadfruit cuckoo too.
Mm-hmm. And all of those things are cuckoo. Some people will tell you that if it is not cornmeal, it is not cuckoo. But the definition of cuckoo is pretty much a crushed starchy dish, or a blended starchy dish. So while our traditional national dish is the almost polenta-like cuckoo that we make from cornmeal, breadfruit cuckoo is cuckoo. Crushed yam is a type of cuckoo, because the act of crushing it and preparing, about the only thing that you can call cuckoo in the Caribbean right now is mashed potatoes. So, and I love a green banana cuckoo myself. My first green banana cuckoo sort of spoiled me for everything else. And like my uncle now, my uncle is what you would call an experimenter. So he knows I love barefoot cuckoo. I went somewhere years ago and somebody gave me barefoot cuckoo with pigtail in it. And I said, I liked the flavor, but I did not like picking pigtail bones out of, and my uncle used to make barefoot cuckoo for me, and he used to take the pigtail off of the bones. So I would just get these lovely bits of pigtail in my breadfruit cuckoo, and then the gravy of the month or the gravy of the week, so to speak. The only thing I don't really like, I don't like when they mix the seafood or the fish gravy with the meat already in the bread. So you can't give me a breadfruit cuckoo that got him pigtail or and then give me mackerel gravy over it.
That's confusing the cuckoo.
But for example, now my daughter now she's like, she doesn't really like the cuckoo that with the beef stew, all that stuff. But you could give her any kind of fish gravy and she gonna yam that down. So she's had mackerel, she's had snapper, she's had basically any kind of fish gravy, and she did. And she's definitely one of the people who eat the cuckoo for the sauce. So
So you know that I love the Barbados Museum. I mean, I've been on the tours. When you follow your social media platforms, you see everything that's happening, lectures. You had different events going on recently.
yes.
So now is our time to give it a little bit of a plug and tell me what's been exciting and what you're looking forward to at the museum.
Oh, well, we are about to actually start our 90th anniversary year. Our 90th anniversary is actually the 31st of May. We're literally rolling right through the whole year with a number of anniversary events. So as a matter of fact, this evening we're having a concert with the police band. There's going to be another one later down this year, collaboration with the police band and Codrington College. So we're doing a little concert series, which is not officially a part of the anniversary day, but we're getting going early. Our lecture series this year, therefore, is about the museum and its contribution to the society. So our first lecture kicked off with Sir Woodville Marshall. He's semi-retired, but he came out of retirement just to sort of give a lecture about basically he was a part of that very first government-headed committee which talked about turning the Barbados Museum into a truly national museum. So they did a development plan. So he talked about the development of that plan and how much we stuck to it, in the new direction he's seen the museum taking. We then had a lecture the next week from our council president, and he looked at the way how the museum has to operate. We're a registered charity. We receive a government subvention, but really and truly, our programming is entirely dependent on the contributions of other people. The objects they give us, that's what we tell the stories about. And my own shameless plug here now is that we are redeveloping our core galleries, and we want your stories, we want your objects, so you can reach out to us. You can say to us, I've been through the museum, and every time I go through the museum, I keep wishing that this particular story was a part of the narrative. You can write us info@barbados.org.bb and tell us the kind of things you want to see in those redeveloped core galleries that are going to be what is representing Barbadian history, Barbadian heritage, Barbadian culture for the people now and for the generations coming forward. Our lecture series last week, our deputy director gave a really, really great lecture about how we have assisted with urban planning, rural planning, the preservation of historic buildings and so on, in collaboration with Town and Country Planning Development Office. This week, just gone, our journal editor, our current journal editor, and our previous journal editor, the previous journal editor did the chairing, but they talked about the huge contribution our journal has made to documenting Barbadian and Caribbean history. The journal is as old as the museum, so we're talking 90 years of journals here. A lot of them were hard copy. We're in a project now to digitize them, and then all of that content will be available online for Barbadians all across the diaspora to talk about it. Next week, our social history curator is now going to talk about how the museum is positioning itself to tell those stories on behalf of the diaspora. And last but not least, our director, on our anniversary date, her lecture is going to be about where the museum came from and where it is going. So, and that is going to be like the big kickoff then for our anniversary year. We had International Museums Day last week. I like to tell you that in addition to inviting people into the museum, we like to take the museum out of the community. So we did a sort of halfway thing for International Museums Day last week. The theme was museums, sustainability, and well-being. So we invited all of our partners who work with things like that, like so people who do wellness practice. We had a massage therapist, we had a yoga instructor, we had the community police officer from the Hastings Worthing Police Station talking to people about home hardening. We had Heart and Stroke and the Diabetes and Hypertension Society. They were doing wellness checks, not just high blood pressure and blood sugar, but also cholesterol checks, where people were getting their body mass index checked. They were getting dietary advice so that they would know what they can eat, what kind of quantities. So basically, we were introducing the museum as a comfortable space for people to come and learn about sustainable ways of living, learn about how we are a safe space to encourage well-being. Coming up over the next year or so, we're hoping to start what we call a heritage garden. So you'll be able to come and see them growing and learn about those traditional plants that we use, not just for seasoning our food, but maybe for practicing a little bit of traditional homeopathic medicine in the home. We partnered on the day with Dr. Sonia Peter, who, as you know, she is a chemist that looks at those biological reactions in plants, and she was able to tell people about those parts of the plants that people have extracted and maybe put in pill form to help with things like cancer and diabetes and so on, which have been very, very good. We, of course, did all of this with the disclaimer that we are not health practitioners, and also, of course, to check with your doctor before you do these things and to stop if you don't feel well. But we have some little recipe cards that we will give out. You can come and collect, the ones that you're interested in, where it will tell you this is how it's traditionally prepared, these are the types of quantities, this is how often it's used. Again, we are not doctors, but basically looking at these things too are promoting our intangible cultural heritage. I am the museum's focal point for intangible cultural heritage as it pertains to consultations with the society. We're actually working with the Barbados Committee for Intangible Cultural Heritage and the Division of Culture. We just actually moved an exhibition that we've had up since August last year to their headquarters at the Division of Culture in Haggett Hall. So the exhibition is now in their foyer, and it will be there to the end of Heritage Month, at the end of June. Heritage Month this year is focusing on our intangible cultural heritage as well as on our natural heritage. So those are the two things that we're highlighting this year. So the exhibition is with them for that time period, but we're also working with them with regard to getting ready some nominations to the registers, the world registers with UNESCO for intangible cultural heritage. And this is the kind of work we do all the time. We were a great part of the nomination and the successful entry to the World Register for Historic Bridgetown and its garrison. We have another nomination along with the government of Barbados and other partners, of course, on the tentative list for the Industrial Heritage of Barbados, the Sugar of Storia and Rum. We have a number of entries on the Memory of the World Register. They have the Anita Barrow Papers. We have the Slave Song with Gibbs. He found the original research, but we would have provided some advice on how to do a Memory of the World nomination. If there are things other people think should be a part of the documentary heritage of Barbados, we provide advice on how to do that. We're providing advice to the ministry and the committee on doing road tennis and the landship for the endangered list, or I should say the list that's under threat, and the road tennis for the regular list. But these are things that I know the museum looks really sleepy on the outside, but we have so many other projects that we're doing. We have a junior creator program that runs every summer. We have a theater arts internship with the Barbados Community College, also runs, so it's 8 weeks every summer. Those students come in, they have an immersive experience with the museum. We've seen some really exciting things coming back out of the program. We got a full-length feature play for last year's portfolio that we did a little workshop with them during the term just to show them an exhibition we had. They did like a little on the spur of the moment play, and then one of the students came back and said, but this would be really, really interesting. And two of the students, Craig and Ayele, they wrote the play. The students directed it themselves. And it was a really quality product. So I'm always really, really fussy when I see young people coming to the museum and they get immersed, and then they give you these things that show you how much they respect our heritage and culture, how much it's become meaningful to them. We're also doing some partnerships with some small islands overseas. So two projects have actually got very close names. So one is Shared Island Stories, and the other one is Our Island Stories. Basically, one is with the existing one is with North US in Scotland, and what it is we've had this series of online workshops where the students come together and they look at the similarities in our heritage and culture. You know that quite a few of the Scottish came to Barbados as a part of those, getting Barbados and coming to do indentureship and so on, and we still have their descendants living with us. And we have, again, the food that reflects that,
Of course.
but also some words of the vernacular that we use, which are very, very Irish and Scottish. So
We had a good laugh about that, but you have to talk to us personally
oh yes,
to
oh
get
yes,
to get the information on that.
oh yes, I would love to get it. And then we have another project that's starting now, and this one is both online, but it's going to be in person as well. So there are students who are coming here last week of July and going back just after crop over. So they're going to learn about Barbados. And then our students are going to go up next summer, and that one is looking specifically at the vulnerabilities of small island communities to environmental change. We're focusing on how these things, of course, link back to the SDGs and how the youth can contribute to safeguarding our heritage, safeguarding our islands, protecting them against maybe the lack of respect you get sometimes from the global north. Don't mind the project is being funded from the global north, but they understand the vulnerabilities because they too have island communities that they're trying to protect as well. So both projects, oddly enough, came out of another project we did, EULAT Museums, which was looking at Caribbean migration to Britain, which purely coincidence, but we got the project going before the Windrush scandal, but we were ready to go with our exhibitions and so on right when the scandal hit. And it has so many legs that the project officially closed off in 2021, but we are still getting requests to speak. We're still getting requests to interact. Up to last week, Reading Museum reached out to us because they wanted to do like an exchange between West Indian derived students in Reading and maybe some students here in Barbados who may have some links with the community there, but basically, again, to examine that migratory experience. So that project has proved incredibly sustainable. But coming out of that, then we have these two other shared stories projects, which are slightly older kids, but it's been absolutely wonderful seeing how you can use theater arts to teach heritage, how those same students will then produce things that they teach the wider public about that heritage. I went to BCC's portfolio last night, and even though it wasn't derived specifically from something we did this year, it was some of the same students who would have done last year's internship. They did some vignettes based on voices by Yvonne Weeks. And a number of the pieces used back content that I actually smiled when I saw them, my words coming back at me from the stage, but not that they used word for word what I did. I could see the product of some additional research, but the heritage stayed with them and it informed a part of what they're doing. And then they now spent 4 nights educating a wider audience so I, as you know, like to tell people my audience is from 2 to 102. But when I see the people that I teach going out and teaching others, it makes me smile.
That's a sweet feeling.
Yeah.
Of course. Well, there's so much to look forward to. And I'm glad we have this chat because we're going to chat again about some of the other things that you just mentioned.
I'm always here.
But no, it's lunchtime. I'm not going to keep you from your food. You did tell me that you judge a place by its port.
Yes,
so you chose here because the port was good.
It was very good. I'm having the pork again, but I'm also going to try out their wings today. I also judge a place by its fries and its steak cut potatoes. So if somebody's going to give me frozen fries, but they have hand cut, steak cut fries.
Okay, good.
They have good wedges. The food here is good. The breeze is fabulous.
Oh, and the view.
Oh, yes.
We haven't seen it. Gorgeous.
Well, since I left school, I went straight to Pomerine and then to Almond Beach Village. and I've been there for 12 years. Then I went to I'm a beach club, and I've been there up to 2 years ago. To be honest, I like to try different things. I don't have a favorite dish per se because I like to try new things. But at the hotel, I used to mainly do the appetizers. But here is very different from the hotel. Here, I do everything basically. We have spare ribs for sure, free pork, and we sell a lot of fish as well, and the chicken wings. So mostly on weekends, we do a lot of wings. Mondays and Tuesdays, every day we open at 12, but Mondays and Tuesdays we close at 8. Wednesday, we don't have a specific closing time because that's our karaoke night. So like around 2 o'clock, we will close off. But then from Thursday down, 10 o'clock. We recently started something called Sundays in the Bay. So that starts like 6 o'clock on Sunday evenings, like a big people limelight. That finishes around 1 o'clock in the morning. We got a lot of people coming through, a lot of reservations, a lot of walk-ins. So it's a bit hectic, but then we always manage and get through. So that's like
You have to reserve a table that you want to sit down outside on a weekend.
Yeah, because
But-
all those tables
Yes.
are
Yes.
filled up right now.
Yes.
But we still got a chance to go outside and take a look at the view. It is amazing and
It is
worth the
spectacular.
drive, worth the adventure.
And it
Come
is
on here,
definitely
try it.
an adventure to drive through St. Andrew nowadays. Scotland district after the rainy season is always interesting.
Indeed. So thank you so much.
You are
We are
welcome.
going to have a fun time here at the Bay Lounge
We
for the
are.
rest of the Sunday afternoon.
We are.
Thank you.
Thank you as well.